Deep Threat Sports, welcome back. We're at it again. You guys know this is the episode where we talk or review leading into the weekend. This was going to be a great one. I mean, I hope no one's got nothing going on. I hope your case is not the same as Collin. He's got a wedding to go to. But speaking of wedding, I'm gonna go ahead and as you guys can tell, it's just me and Collin today. Bryant is not going to be able to make it with us today. He's got a wedding he's got to prepare for, Collin as well. So today you got me and Collin, so we're still going to bring a lot of information, a lot of energy. Big thing is there's a lot of huge games this weekend. I mean, this is where you're going to really start testing people real hard. I mean, we got the Red River Showdown, Texas, Oklahoma. We've got Kansas State playing Colorado. I mean, we have got a lot of big games. I mean, LSU's got a big game. So we're going to talk a lot of big games. We're also going to give you guys your best bets. We know you guys like to make money, so we're going to talk best bets. Collin's going to tell you where to put your money. It's going to be good. So without further ado, I know Collin did not want to talk about this game first. Kansas State versus at Colorado. Kansas State at Colorado. This is going to be a 9:15 p.m. game on ESPN. Now, let me tell you, Deion Sanders is not happy about this game time. He is not happy about it. But, dude, you're playing football. Go. You're okay.
Man, is he ever happy? Is he ever happy, Dave?
Hey, there's always an excuse for something with that guy. But it should be an entertaining game. Big thing is we got two very different teams here. Colorado, more of a passing team. They're going to try to sling the rock. Sanders to my boy Travis Hunter, and then they got a couple other options at receiver, but Kansas State's run game is solid. And then again, Avery Johnson, if he can't sling the rock, he's going to run it, and he runs it well. And again, big thing I find with this game, Collin, is that I don't know if you remember, but Kansas State already played a very good passing team in Arizona. I mean, you got Tetero McMillan, Noah Fafita. I mean, that is probably one of the best duos we got in college football. But that's all they have, though. I think Colorado's got a bit more of options in regards to receivers other than Travis Hunter. So I'm curious to see how that works out for him because, again, I believe in Kansas State, and I also don't think Colorado's that good. What do you think, Collin? I mean, you with me or are you pulling for Colorado here?
Well, I mean, we talk so much about Kansas State on our show and how much we believe in Kansas State and how much I personally myself believe in Avery Johnson. I feel like he should be able to have his way in this game, Dave. I mean, Colorado's defense really doesn't impress me too much, but I'll give them credit where it's due. They have been better than expected. They're going to make a hard push at that under 5.5 win total. They've won some games we didn't necessarily think they were going to win to start the season, and they actually appear to be somewhat competent in the run game at this point. They ran the ball pretty well last week. Usually they're just a pass-first team. Try to pad the stats for Shadur and Travis Hunter and really make a push with that Heisman run. I think Shiloh Sanders comes back in this game. Deion's other son, the safety. I mean, to be honest with you, they've been better without him. So I'm sure they're going to play him because it is Deion's son. But they're a better football team without him on the field defensively. I think they should probably push his injury back another week. But, hey, I don't expect that to happen. Colorado is a big man coverage football team. With that being said, the defenders have their backs turned to the quarterback. I think if the play breaks down, Avery Johnson is very athletic. I think Avery Johnson's rushing yards total is somewhere in the 60s in this game. I would expect him to go over that. I think Avery Johnson can get out of the pocket, get some free yards down the field when nobody's looking. And I think Kansas State's going to attack them with a pretty balanced offense. We've seen Jace Brown start to link up with Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson starting to feel more comfortable passing the football, really kind of settling in my opinion. So, yeah, man, I think Kansas State looks really good in this one. I do expect Colorado to be rocking on Saturday night. Late game, the fans are probably going to be boozing all day. So at 9:15, Central Time, whatever time that is out there in Colorado, I'm not familiar with their time zone, but I do expect the fans to be good and lubed up, so they should make it a really good environment. My biggest thing here is Colorado really struggles with a team that rushes the passer consistently. So I look for Kansas State to do everything they can to put some pressure on Shadur Sanders in this game when really Kansas State's pass rush hasn't been the best in college football by any stretch of the imagination. But I think they're going to do everything they can to get him home, put him off his mark. Now, listen, Shedeur is an athlete. He can get out, he can run, he can gain free yards as well. So they do have to contain him. But I wouldn't expect the run game to really be a huge threat. Like I said earlier, they do look competent in the rushing attack now, but I still think on a big stage like this on ESPN, they look to air this thing out all night long. Up 40, down 40, no matter what. Shedeur, I would expect him to air the football out all game long. But Kansas State has to make a statement in this football game, Dave.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. Because Colorado, like you said, they're a lot better. They're getting better. We'll give them that. They're getting better. Not still, they're not going to make playoffs. Let's not even think about that. But if Kansas State can come out here and beat Colorado by 2 scores, I think they solidify their hopes of wanting to be a playoff team. It's going to be hard, but hey, they could also win out.
And they win this game, Dave. They win this game, and they are becoming a serious conversation about a playoff push. As crazy as that sounds, I mean, they have to win this football game, and that's a daunting task, I think. But they can. There's a reality where they can win this football game and win many games ahead. They just have to keep clicking. And like I said, that run game's got to stay consistent for them to take a little pressure off Shedeur. That offensive line doesn't impress me either. So, I mean, they really have their work cut out for them in this one.
Absolutely. But speaking of Kansas State, next game we're going to talk about is Will Howard and Ohio State at Oregon at 6:30 p.m. through NBC. So, again, Ohio State coming over here with Will Howard that has had a pretty successful career. And he's coming into this game with his highest percentage of all years he's played college football. He's looking at 71.5% completion. So, hey, pretty good. He does have 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, over 1,200 yards. So nothing, real amazing, but he's just getting the job done. And I almost like this better, that he's not trying to do too much, because we've seen way too many quarterbacks at this point in the season just try to do too much. Like, know your limitations, know where to throw it, know when to pass it, like play simple ball. But, going from one quarterback to next, Dillon Gabriel in Oregon, I don't think Dillon Gabriel is as good as people make him out to be. Yes, he's had injuries and stuff like that, but he just doesn't scare me as a quarterback. Like when I think about playing Dillon Gabriel, I don't think, man, like he can pull something off. I think I wouldn't even say overhyped, but again, even at Oklahoma, it was just a different system he was in. And
I think he's very limited, Dave. I think he really struggles attacking the whole field. I think he really struggles throwing a good, consistent deep ball. I just think, like I said, I think he's a very limited quarterback, and I think he's kind of being a little more exposed out here in Oregon, because Oregon's had a good run at quarterback, and when you see him come in, we expected big things right out of the gate for him, and I think it took some time for them to click out there, that Oregon offense, that is. Evan Stewart's kind of a guy who we expected big things from and really would take a little pressure off Tez Johnson and kind of free Tez Johnson up. And Evan Stewart really hasn't done that a whole lot yet. So Gabriel and Tez Johnson are clicking pretty well, but Gabriel and Evan Stewart are not. And I think for them to have a chance in this football game and to really make a push at it, Evan Stewart has to get going, and Dillon Gabriel has to hook up early and often. I mean, that has to happen consistently. Also, Dillon Gabriel cannot turn the football over in the red zone. He had 2 turnovers in the red zone against Michigan State last week. That's not good at all. I know they still won the football game comfortably, but that score did not resonate what it really should have been because of those turnovers. But like you also said, neither quarterback really blows me away. I mean, Will Howard, you can trust in him. Will Howard's going to make the good, consistent throws, but Will Howard's not going to put his team on his back, just himself, and win the football game. But hey, at Ohio State, he didn't have to do that, man. There is talent all over the football field. We hear a lot about Jeremiah Smith doing incredible things as a true freshman. We hear a lot about Emeka Egbuka taking slant yards to the house. One thing we've talked about for explosive players to start making explosive plays on their own, and Emeka Egbuka is doing that right now. So they really have 2 number 1 receivers, and they really have 2 number 1 running backs in Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. That's going to be a huge task for Oregon's defense. It's impossible to take all those guys away at one time. Obviously, Judkins and Henderson probably won't be on the field at the same time very often, but you still have to limit 3 other guys. And let's not forget, they have good receivers behind Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith. So this Oregon defense has their work cut out for them, but that front 7 is a lot better than what most people give them credit for and what most people think. You hear a lot about how man, we don't think Oregon's as good as we thought they were going to be. Well, hey, Oregon's a top 5 football team. And I don't think the Boise State score, I think, really deters a lot of people from saying Oregon's a top 5 football team. But I think Boise State is truly just a really good football team. And I think Boise State gave Oregon their best game they could play. So credit to Oregon to go ahead and win that. And I do think Oregon hangs around in this football game. Both these defenses are pretty damn good. Oregon's allowing under 18 points per game, and Ohio State's allowing under 7 points per game. So, Dave, I think this is going to be one of the most entertaining, hard-fought, just bloody, hard-nosed football games we're going to watch all season. And I just don't know where it goes. I've been so back and forth on this, man. I lean one way for a little bit. I start to lean the other way. I read something, do a little homework, and I start to lean a different direction. There's just talent all over the football field in this football game. Sit back, enjoy this one. The one thing to watch that's going to sound crazy, Ohio State is outscoring their opponents 84-3 in the third quarter. 84-3, Dave, in the third quarter. So they are making monumental moves at halftime to come out in the third quarter and lay the wood to people. Chip Kelly, that offensive coordinator, just an absolute brilliant mind. Absolute brilliant mind. This is a big game for him as well. Used to coach at Oregon. So, he's going to want to get them for sure. This is a big game for Dan Lanning. This is a home game for Oregon. That place is going to be rocking. I think it will be a tougher environment than Ohio State expects. And Oregon really needs to prove their worth in the Big Ten in this football game, taking down the front runner in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Collin, and you bring up a really good point that I had not thought about is, people are going off that Boise State game, almost acting like Boise State isn't a good team. But let's all agree at this point in time, I don't think anybody in the country would disagree that Boise State at this current moment has that number 12 spot, and I don't see them losing it anytime soon. So we're talking about Oregon lost to a team that we pretty much all know for a fact is going to be in the playoffs. So
going to be a playoff team, man. I think Boise State beats a lot of Power 4 schools for sure.
But because it's Boise State, I think a lot of people have this idea that because they're not a Power 5 team, they're a G5 school, that they're not as good. But clearly they've shown they are. Just that the running back.
To your point, people just have doubts because they are a G5 school. But, man, they're a really competitive G5 school. And history shows that they're a competitive G5 school. They're always in conversation for being one of the better teams in that class. And credit to Oregon for beating them. Ashton Jeanty did kind of run wild, which kind of scares me a little bit with this Ohio State rushing attack. But, man, Oregon's a good football team. And all the preseason bias for Oregon, we had it here that Oregon was going to be, a playoff favorite for us. We thought they might win the Big Ten, and then there's still that chance. They definitely still can. They're still sitting right next to Ohio State up front. But I think that preseason bias is kind of why people are starting to get down on Oregon, if that makes any sense. And I don't think they should get down on them just yet. Oregon will keep this game respectable.
So, Collin, who does this loss hurt more, Oregon or Ohio State? Who has more to lose at this point?
David, I haven't really thought of that just yet. I just off the cuffs here, I'm going to make a case for both. I think it hurts Oregon more if they lose this football game in the sense of their schedule ahead is easier. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but hear me out when I say this. They don't have as many opponents to put on the resume to stack up for wins to make them look better for a playoff higher seed. So I think if they lose their hardest game on their schedule, obviously being the hardest game, you kind of expect that they might drop it. But I think with the resume building process throughout the future, it could be tougher for them to get a better spot in the playoffs. Now, on the flip side of that, Ohio State's schedule is really hard. So they lose this one, and maybe they lose one or two more ahead. Like I predicted in our conference, pick'em show, I think they do drop this one, and I think they drop a couple down the road. Not a couple, sorry, one more down the road. So that also hurts them as well. And I also think it might hurt Ryan Day's confidence a little bit. And those Ohio State fans are chomping at the bit on Ryan Day. They expect perfect season from Ryan Day this year. Lose a game like this, not a good start. You're halfway through the season. I think they got to have this one. This is a big game for both these teams. This is a program builder, monumental win in the Big Ten for Oregon now. Let's not forget they're new to the Big Ten. So this is them trying to prove their worth. Hey, we belong here. We fit in here. We're going to go head-to-head with your best school you can throw at us this year and try to beat them. So, like I said, I make a case for both. I haven't really thought about that, and that's a great question. So, I may have a more definitive answer after that game's over when we come back here and revisit on Monday next week. But right now, I make a case for both of them that they both need to get this one.
Man, a game that's going to have, I don't think it should be as competitive as it is going to be, but it's only going to be competitive because it is a Red River Showdown. That is Texas playing Oklahoma at 2:30 p.m. on ABC in Dallas, Texas. I mean, it's not really a home game for anybody. Obviously, you could argue it's a home game for Texas, but no.
Well, both these teams travel very well, especially for this game. You'll see your fair share of orange. You'll see your fair share of red. I mean, it's going to be half and half.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be a very exciting game, and I really hope it is. Because if it wasn't the Red River Showdown, I'd look at this game and say Texas is going to run through Oklahoma. Because let's be real, Oklahoma's offense is not very good. We got issues at quarterback position. Deion Burks is out, so one of your receivers is out. You're playing with a backup quarterback. You might even go back to Jackson Arnold. I don't know. So the offense just has nothing going for them, you know.
Do you think we see Jackson Arnold in this game? Do you think we see Arch Manning in this game? I mean, this is a game where if Quinn Ewers comes out and he's stale and he's rusty in the first little bit of this football game, and next thing you know, Oklahoma's kind of hanging around. You're going to see the fans start to get a little antsy. Probably the coaching staff start to get a little bit antsy. And do they flip to Arch? I mean, I don't want to speculate on things, and Quinn may come out and throw for 400 yards and make us look like idiots for even mentioning this. But I think there is a chance in this game where you see Jackson Arnold or Arch Manning, either one. I mean, I think you may see all four quarterbacks play in this game at some point, Dave.
I truly don't think we'll see all four. I think at this point they seem to have parted ways with Jackson Arnold. They haven't really played him very much anymore.
Well, like we talked about here before, I think you're right. I mean, Jackson Arnold seems a little checked out, and he may end up transferring for sure.
Man, I would almost put money that Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers are going to play regardless. I think they're both playing because look, you play. Let's say you start Quinn Ewers. That's fine. That's been a spot. Throw him out there if he does well.
He's starting. They said he's starting for sure.
Okay. Well, he's all right. So he's starting, and let's say he starts doing really good, and we get up 2 scores. Throw Arch Manning in for a couple reps because he's injured. So you don't want to risk. It's an abdominal strain. So a lot of it was probably as he's throwing because you're using a lot of your ab muscles. So that you also don't want him to be throwing too much because what if he flares it up again? When you know that you can rely on Arch Manning, he's gonna be pretty good. I mean, yes, he's gonna have his mistakes. He's a young quarterback, but he's gonna play well. He has the ability to run the ball. He's got the ability to throw the ball. So I think we see both of them. I will be more shocked if we don't see both of Texas quarterbacks. But I think Texas wins this one. And I don't think
you're kind of convincing me. I mean, you are a doctor, so I'm going to give you the credit on talking about the abdominal strain and the muscles here because, I mean, obviously you're going to know that way more than me, but Texas wants to beat the shit out of them. And because Oklahoma beat them last year. Texas wants to kick the dog shit out of Oklahoma. And this is the year they can do it. I mean, you talked about a second ago, Deion Burks being out for Oklahoma. That just made it 10 times harder than what it already was for Oklahoma to win this football game. Oklahoma's defense is really good, though. I mean, I think they're really good. Danny Stutzman is really good at the linebacker position for Oklahoma. So if Oklahoma can generate some pressure, you might be right if you see Quinn start taking some hits and he's starting to look a little banged up. But it's got to be a perfect scheme, a perfect attack for Oklahoma. Now, listen, too, Brent Venables is known for this sort of thing. I mean, he is known to confuse quarterbacks. He's a great coach for Oklahoma. He's a great defensive mind. He can scheme this up to really make Quinn Ewers comfortable, especially coming off that injury like you're talking about. But, man, Texas's offensive line is probably top 5 in the country. So, I mean, they're up for this task. I mean, they are built for this. Texas is, if they're going to go and be a top team in the playoffs, this is a game they have to dominate because, like you said, Oklahoma's offense is shit, man. It is horrible. The rushing attack looks awful. Their passing attack is awful. Jackson Arnold didn't look good in it. He was supposed to be the next best thing. I can't even remember the backup quarterback off the top of my head right now, and I guess he's not really the backup anymore. He is QB1 on the depth chart. He's looked okay. And I mean, okay is probably being nice about it. I mean, they are 43% at a 3-and-out rate. What? Let me clear that up. They are 3-and-out 43% of the time. That's horrible, Dave. That is horrible. They are like a bottom 5 offense in Power 4 football. So, to your point, man, if Texas goes up big, yeah, I think you do see Arch Manning. If Texas has a really tight game and he's taking hits, I think you could see Arch Manning. But I just think Texas can comfortably controls this game. The only reason they wouldn't control this game is because, like you said, this is a rivalry and weird things happen in rivalry football games, especially this one. But I don't see a world where this is a high scoring game either. I think this is a pretty handled game by Texas. I think they get up. I think they coast. And if they grow the lead, they grow the lead, and they're happy with it because, like I said, they want to kick the shit out of them. But I just don't think Oklahoma has a chance at all. I can't. I tried to find a world where Oklahoma has that chance, and when I saw Deion Burks was ruled out of this football game, that was the end of it for me. I mean, I just right then I was like, okay, they're done. This is it. Mail it in. I haven't actually checked to see if the spread is replicating the fact that Deion Burks is out, but yeah, Dave, Texas controls this one, I think.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to think that because it is Red River Showdown, because it is this game, anything can happen. But yes, in 99% of those situations, Texas takes this one. But look at how last week was. How wild was that? Who would have thought Vanderbilt knocks off Alabama? So
hey, man, it's college football. We've said that millions of times. Anything can happen in college football.
Exactly. But a game that I think is going to, I don't know. I'm having a hard. So Ole Miss to LSU, 6:30 p.m. through ABC, and I don't see why Ole Miss shouldn't roll over LSU. And I say this because Ole Miss has the number one defense against the run in the country, averaging 63.7 yards. That's pretty darn good. And then if Jackson Dart and again, if Trey Harris is healthy and he's able to play, they're going to be dangerous. Now they're coming back with a vengeance because they've got a loss. They're trying to prove a point. Now they have to climb themselves back into a playoff spot. And then LSU's defense is the worst. They are literally the worst statistically in the SEC. Statistically, they are the worst defense in the SEC. And
I mean, that's not a surprise to me. I mean, losing Harold Perkins didn't help that at all. I mean, there was a world out there where people were trying to say that losing Harold Perkins might make them better, and I don't see that. I mean, I couldn't get on board with that take. I mean, and maybe I'm missing something. I mean, whatever. But yeah, I mean, Trey Harris is an important X factor for Ole Miss in this football game, and there's a chance that he doesn't play. I mean, I think at this point, if he's been debating not playing this long and they're not sure if he's healthy enough, I mean, I would say he's probably not going to play at 100%. I mean, that's all speculation on my part. Maybe this is one of those tactics like you and I kind of talked about earlier. Maybe it's a tactic where they're just trying to use it to the advantage of, hey, let's not put our best corner on Trey Harris because, he's not going to be 100%. Now, LSU's best corner is not really a good corner. So, I mean, I want to clear that up. They're not that good on defense at all. Like you said, their secondary is absolutely horrible. But LSU is absolutely incredible on offense. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier, he's over 1,600 yards, 15 touchdowns. I mean, they're a great offense. Kyron Lacey is a problem for anybody. But like you said as well, man, Ole Miss's defense is stout. They are mean. They're mean up front. They can get home
against the run in the country.
Yeah, man. I mean, Walter Nolan has to get home to knock Garrett Nussmeier off his spot. And if you see Ole Miss consistently getting home, I think Ole Miss can handle this football game. But let's not forget, Jackson Dart hasn't looked like Jackson Dart here recently either. I mean, this is a game where he's kind of got to find his rhythm. This is a game where he should have no problem picking apart this LSU defense. There is a world where this becomes an absolute shootout because of something like that. I mean, if LSU moves the ball on Ole Miss, it's going to be a game of who outscores who. No longer talking about how good Ole Miss's defense is. But I think Ole Miss can generate some stops. Like I said, they just got to get home. They got to make Garrett Nussmeier feel uncomfortable. Ole Miss also has to get the run game going in this game because that's pretty well just doesn't exist. I mean, their run game is not good. And to attack LSU efficiently, they have to get it going because we're beating a dead horse here. LSU's defense is awful. If you can't run it on LSU, we are going to have problems down the stretch with Ole Miss, and I'm going to be entirely wrong on my Ole Miss take in our last conference episode. So Ole Miss needs to impress me here. Ole Miss needs to impress themselves here. They need to ramp it up on offense, hammer it home, outscore LSU, and I mean that's really it. I mean, one thing that I know in this game is the home team, Dave, has covered 9 of the last 10 games. And I know one thing for certain. Death Valley at night is not a fun place to play. So
No,
Ole Miss is that in itself makes this a daunting task for them. Brian Kelly does not lose at night as the LSU head coach. So it's going to be a tough task for Ole Miss. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. They need Trey Harris to play, and they need the run game to go. Otherwise, you might see a world where LSU wins this football game outright and maybe comfortably.
Whew, yeah, I agree.
I'm just trying to give a world where on all of these where both teams have a case to win. You know, like I'm trying to open mind the previews that we're doing on these games, and there is a case where both of these teams can handle this game easily, and there's a case where this game is an absolute knockdown dragout.
Yeah, hey, again, it's college football. Anything can happen. Shoot, hey, you know, we had USC, you know, being a playoff team at the beginning of the year, and look at us now.
Whoa, hang on. I didn't. You might have. This guy did. USC impressed me in the first 4 weeks, and I thought maybe I needed to reevaluate my expectations, and maybe I was really wrong. But it's starting to look more like they're coming back down to reality here. And I'm going to touch on that game in a little bit, so I don't want to give anything away. But, yeah, pump the brakes on it. And you might have a mouse in your pocket on that one, Dave.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Penn State coming into USC. They are trying to make a point that they are a playoff team. I think they are. I think they show up to USC and just roll them over. Lincoln Riley, USC, at least at Oklahoma, he had the offense humming and the defense was garbage. He's got nothing going here. I mean, I don't know. Is USC athletic department looking like, man, we really messed up?
No, I don't want to go that far with it because like we just said, that the first 4 weeks they impressed. I mean, I think there's an avenue for them to get back on task. But we talked on this show about Eric Gentry at length before, and Eric Gentry is a linebacker for USC, and he's a name that a lot of people don't really talk about. But man, he was a problem for opposing offenses. He was a leader on this defense. He was the guy on this defense. He was an upperclassman, and they really formed around him. But he might be out the rest of the season, Dave. I mean, I from what I understand, he's having some concussion issues. They're thinking about maybe not playing him the rest of the season because of that. So that makes it really, really tough for USC to slow anybody down. I think they don't have the depth. We've seen guys hit the portal and redshirt on this USC defense, as in Bear Alexander. So they're kind of losing depth on the D line. They're losing depth at the linebacker position. It's kind of crumbling on the defensive side of the ball for them right now. And Miller Moss probably had his worst game of his career, which I know it's pretty short career at this point, small sample, but definitely had the worst game of his career here this last football game. So does he get back on track? And man, Penn State's defensive line, Abdul Carter, defensive line is loaded, Dave. This is not going to be fun for USC. This offensive line needs to have their best game of the season because USC is going to be hammering home. Penn State's going to be hammering home on Miller Moss the whole entire football game. Nick Singleton's back in this game for Penn State. This rushing attack for Penn State's lethal. What we need to see here in this football game to impress me against this USC defense that's kind of falling apart is Drew Allar be explosive, find Harrison Wallace, and make explosive plays. Don't always rely on the run game. Don't be so Michigan-like. Drew Allar has a cannon. Let's use it. James Franklin, let the offense run free in this football game. Make a statement. Win big when the spread is small and impress everybody and let them know that you're for real. Because I believe that they're for real. I mean, I said, once again, referencing our conference episode this week, I have Penn State going undefeated. So they have to get it going right here, trend in the right direction down the stretch, and they need to dominate this football game. And I think they do. I'm just going to go on record and say I think that they do.
Another game I want to talk about is Florida at Tennessee. Tennessee coming off a loss that they did not expect. But, you know, I'm not so big on Nico anymore. You know, I haven't been impressed. I mean, yes, like I'm not saying he's bad by any means, but I don't think he's that wonder kid that everyone keeps talking about. Some dumb mistakes on his end, but if he,
It's early, man. It's early in his career. I mean, he's a first year starter. I'm with you. The hype was out of this world, and after the first couple of games, hell, Dave, they hook, line, sinkered me on the hype with Nico, and when really I wasn't there before the season on him. Kind of like the USC defense thing, man. I kind of got sucked in early on the small sample size. They weren't really playing the toughest of opponents all the time. Now they're kind of getting in the meat of that schedule. But let's not forget, man, Arkansas's got some real big-time pass rushers that got after him. And I think if you can get after Nico, it makes Nico super uncomfortable, just like it would most people. And he gets off his spot, and he's not really getting through his progressions. The receivers and him didn't seem to be clicking as much. They have tons of receivers, but do they really have a real big-time difference maker at receiver? That's where I kind of wonder a little bit. Dylan Sampson seems to be the heart and soul of this offense right now. He's truly the heartbeat for them, keeping them in football games, helping keep pressure off of Nico. But Dave, Florida's defense is nothing like Arkansas's defense was. I think Nico needs to settle in on this football game. Like you said, they need to get back in this one after a loss, prove that they're still for real because, hey, you, me, and Bryant, all three of us, have kind of eliminated them from playoff conversation. I mean, we just proved that. We talked about it, and we said, hey, not right now. I don't think they're there quite yet. But this Tennessee defense is for real, and this Tennessee defense is really good. I think they have their way with Florida, man. I think they dominate this football game. I don't think any passing attack or any rushing attack from Florida is a tough task for this Tennessee defense. I think Tennessee needs to settle in, feel comfortable. Josh Heupel needs to get the offense flowing again. He's a great offensive mind. Let these guys settle in and take this football game over early and control it the rest of the way.
Absolutely.
Do it with the pass game. Do it with the pass game. Show that the pass game is for real. You don't always need to count on the run. Show it with the pass game.
Absolutely, but if there's a game for Nico to settle in, it's against Florida. Florida hasn't been impressive at all this year. So
no, he needs to show up and show out.
Absolutely.
Silence the critics right now because they're starting to pick up on him a little bit. Like I said, it's early in his career, first year starter. So we need to give it some time and not forget that. But yeah, man, it's with the hype. That's the thing about the hype, man, for all these guys. Like the Jackson Arnold hype. When the hype is so high and so real, there's only one direction you can go. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like there's only one direction you can go at that point.
100%. I feel like it's that 1% that can actually sustain that hype. But again, another team. Next game I want to talk about, Iowa State at West Virginia, a team that has to sustain the hype. They're 5-0. I had them winning the Big 12. Like I think highly of them. And those of you that were on our previous episode heard about our top conference team. So yeah, me and I think Brian had them winning it all as well.
Yeah, both of you did. Yeah, I was the only one that didn't. I had Kansas State. But if you remember right, Dave, in one of our very first episodes when we first fired this network up was you and I at the time, just you and me, had talked about how Iowa State's a real sleeper team in the Big 12. And right now they're proving that. I mean, Rocco Beck, he's not a difference. I can't say he's not a difference maker, but he's not, he's not all world quarterback. I mean, he does enough to get the job done. He does the job, takes care of the football pretty well. Jalen Noel is a really, really good receiver on the outside for him, and that really helps. I worry about the run game a little bit. They are a little banged up at that position. Hopefully they can get their stud back this week. West Virginia's a tough place to play, though, man. No easy job is to go into West Virginia and win. And Garrett Green is a pretty reliable quarterback. I mean, he does his job as well. Now, he's not lighting the world on fire either. He is only +3 in the turnover margin with 7 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So, I mean, there is room for mistakes for him, and Iowa State's defense is pretty damn good. So I think Iowa State can probably force some turnovers. I also see a world where Garrett Green kind of settles in this football game and makes it super competitive, feeling comfortable at home, getting the fans behind him, knowing that this is a big football game. They've prepped all week and schemed up all week against this Iowa State defense, knowing that they probably have to get this one, especially at home. So there's a world where West Virginia can win it. I don't think they win it by any means. I mean, I'm not living in that world. I'm in the world where I think Iowa State probably comes in and handles business. But yeah, man, I mean, West Virginia being a tough place to play, they always have a chance in football games, especially at home.
So, Collin, and if you asked me this at the beginning of the year, do I think West Virginia can even hang with Iowa State? I would have told you no, not a chance. But man, I know their record is, I believe it's 3-2. Let me double check
and
that.
They're 3-2, and they've looked, I don't want to say really good lately, but they've looked much better lately.
Well, no. Well, let me put this into perspective. Their 2 losses are against a number 4 team in the country, Penn State. First game of the season. There's always the first game jitters. And then they lost the number 22 Pitt, another top 25 team. So their 2 losses are to 2 top 25 teams.
And wasn't that Pitt game? That Pitt game was like a single-digit loss, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was a 4-point game. It was a 4-point loss. And then
now listen, I don't think Pitt. I think Pitt's a little, and we have him in our rankings, but I think Pitt's a little overrated at this point. I mean, I don't think Pitt is absolutely world beaters. I mean, I think Eli Holstein and Pat Narduzzi are a great, duo right there, the head coach and quarterbacks. I mean, they're clicking. But I mean, I don't think that they're world beaters by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but another game that West Virginia has played I want to mention is, let's not forget they beat Oklahoma State comfortably by over 2 scores.
Yeah.
And, Oklahoma State was a top 25 team before this game.
They're broken right now, though, man. Oklahoma State is broken. And they're probably one of my biggest teams that I'm the most upset with this far, because we have hammered this point home. I mean, and I don't really want to spend too much time on it again, but gosh dang, where is Ollie Gordon? Son of a biscuit. This is terrible by him right now.
Yeah, it is. It is. But one thing that wasn't terrible was our betting odds. All right. We're back. We had some technical difficulties. Here, Collin, my man, that was doing some electrical work and trying to figure out what was going on over here.
Doing some troubleshooting. Quick troubleshooting.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's talk about our bets from last week. We were 4-4-1 last week, so a winning week. And the losses we did have was South Carolina +10, Boston College even, Tennessee -13, and Oklahoma State -3. So we will not be betting on anything Oklahoma State any further.
No, hey, we even gave that warning last week. Fade us on the Oklahoma State pick. We're just going to go at them one more time. I don't think any of those were actually close, Dave. I think we missed the mark pretty bad on all of those except Boston College. I think Boston College kind of pissed theirs away late. But, man, did we miss the mark on the other 3. But, hey, 4-4-1, baby. We're breaking even. We're winning. That's all we care about here. We're just trying to break even, have some fun with it. And if we get rich, hey, that's great too. If not, we'll die trying. Let's go, baby.
Absolutely. And let's mention we're 30-26 on the year on our Book It segment. So we're winning a lot more than we're losing. So that's always a positive. And that's
definitely follow us. Definitely follow us on the picks where we say book it. The ones where we just kind of float out there and we're just throwing a dart. We don't put those in our model. So we're just going off good vibes on those. You ain't always got to follow those. If you think we're hot, then go ahead. But if you want to fade us on those too, because those haven't looked as good, the vibey picks don't look as good, but the Book It picks look great. So let's get back on this horse, Dave.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and talk about what we got for this week coming up. Right off the bat, Vandy at Kentucky. Collin, what does that look like for us?
Dave, you see Diego Pavia. He tells us Vanderbilt's turn. And he used some profanity in there.
It's that blood in him. We got that Mexican-American blood. You're just a dog like that.
Yeah, you and Diego Pavia pretty tight. So with that being said, Dave, Vandy +13.5, go ahead and book it. I think this line's disrespectful, especially coming off a game like that. Disrespectful line, Vandy +13.5. There's a world, Dave, where we sprinkle Vanderbilt money line. Ooh. Don't follow us on that. That's one of those where we didn't say book it. That's one of those where we want to put a little taste on that just because if they're running hot, if they don't have that hangover after beating the number 1 team and they're running hot, they're a better offense than Kentucky's offense. Diego Pavia is a tough man to slow down. Diego Pavia clearly has beat better teams than Kentucky. This isn't a crazy game for him. This is a game where I think he can come settle in again. But with that being said, Vandy +13.5, that's our book it play. So go ahead and, book it.
All right. How about Kansas State at Colorado? What do we got for that?
This is a game where, Dave, we need Avery Johnson. We love K-State. I love Kansas State, I should say. You seem to be a Colorado homer. I don't really know where that came from, but I'm going to continue to ride your ass because it's all things Colorado for you. But I'm going to go ahead and say Kansas State -3.5. Book it, buy the hook, make it -3, and book that shit. Kansas State, baby. Here we go.
Woo! All right, here I'm gonna test you. Ole Miss at LSU. What do you got for Ole Miss at LSU?
I don't have a real lean in this one either direction. So we're going to go a different direction because we want to be on this game. And I do like this. LSU, we've taken the over on LSU quite a bit, and they've not hit those marks, especially against Power 4 opponents. Ole Miss at LSU under 62. Book it. If Trey Harris doesn't play in this game, book it twice.
Whew. When Penn State plays at USC, does USC have a chance?
Oh, there's a world where USC wins. We talked about that earlier. If USC's defense can settle in and get some pressure on Drew Aller and slow down that Penn State rushing attack, the Penn State passing attack needs to get going and be more effective. But no, Dave, I don't think USC has a chance in this football game. Penn State -3.5. Buy the hook. Book it.
Woo! And then Ashton-Jeanty University at Hawaii. What does that game look like?
Ashton-Jeanty University at Hawaii. I love it, Dave. I'm just glad you're on board with the Ashton-Jeanty thing. You finally came to your senses, finally got your head out of your ass, and you're on board. Ashton-Jeanty University, a.k.a. Boise State, -20 against Hawaii. Book it. I heard something today that Hawaii's got a good run defense. Have they played Ashton-Jeanty? No, they haven't. No, they haven't, Dave. I think Ashton-Jeanty's rushing touchdown prop is like -6,000. You have to bet $6,000 to win $100 for Ashton-Jeanty to score a touchdown. Boise State, -20. Book it.
Iowa State at West Virginia. What do we got there?
I think this is a game where these two teams kind of drag each other in the mud. Iowa State showed us last week they can throw some points up in the second half. I don't think they do that this week. Iowa State, West Virginia, under 53, Dave. You can book that shit.
Woo! And then Ohio State at Oregon, a very big game. What do you see that playing out like?
Dave, we have a 2-for-1 bet in this football game for you. And the second one's going to sound a little crazy, and I want to hear you give me the one more time. I can't get my voice to do what yours does there, but I want to hear it one more time because we talked earlier. Ohio State outscoring opponents 84-3 in the third quarter. That's a real stat for your ass. Ohio State, third quarter, -0.5. Book it. Get it while you can. Chip Kelly comes out with a great scheme to start the second half, make things interesting. Ohio State, -0.5 in the third quarter. Book it. While we're here, Ohio State, Oregon, under 53.5. Book it. Buy the hook, make it 54, and book that shit. We are on some unders this week, and you don't see us get on unders very often, but we love some unders this week. Hammer it home, baby. Hey, give me one of them hows one more time right here because I'm feeling really good about those.
The what?
Give me one of them hows you've been giving me. Give me one of them again that you've been doing after every pick. Come on.
All right,
there it is, baby. Here we go. Spice it up for me, daddy.
All right. Please tell me you got something other than an under for Clemson at Wake Forest.
We might have a little something other than an under here. Clemson at Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest is terrible, Dave. I think Wake Forest is one of the doormats of the ACC right now. Haven't been the same since Sam Hartman left. Poor Dave Clawson out there at Wake Forest. Clemson, first half, -10.5. Book it. Dabo Swinney's got something to say to your ass, Dave. He's tired of hearing you talk about this transfer portal. He's going to hang 20 in the first half. Wake Forest is going to score none just to prove a point to you, David. Clemson, first half, -10.5. Book it.
All right.
Hey, there's that how, baby. You're feeling good about it. You're feeling good about it.
Mississippi State at Georgia. Tell me there's going to be a lot of touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, by one team, Georgia. I don't even know if Mississippi State gets in the end zone, Dave. Georgia's pissed off since losing that Alabama football game. That Bama loss doesn't look any better, especially after they dropped that game to Vanderbilt. Georgia is going to absolutely stonewall Mississippi State. This game is at Georgia. So guess what, Dave? I got another under for your ass. Georgia game. Under 55.5. By the hook. Make it 56. Book it.
Whew, well, you guys know where to put your money now. Go out there, play some bets, make some money. Let us know you made some money.
Dave,
hey, if not,
Dave, you know I'm not done just yet. Hey, you know I'm not done just yet, Dave. You know I'm going to have a little something special here that I'm going to throw in here. Like I said, this isn't going to be a part of the book it. This is going to be a part of me just throwing some darts at the board here. We're going to go ahead and sprinkle that Vanderbilt money line. We're going to hammer it. You're going to get good odds on it depending on where you're at. Once again, I want to say one thing while I'm talking about that. These odds and lines are subject to change. I mean, this is when we record this is what they are. So get it while the getting is good. Dave, I cannot believe I'm saying this to you right now. I truly, to God, cannot believe I'm about to tell you what I'm about to tell you, especially after last week. Do you have any idea where I'm going? I didn't bust this shirt out for no reason. I didn't wear the humility on my face and the disappointment for no reason. I think this Mizzou game against UMass is a tad disrespectful at the line because I think UMass is probably one of the worst teams in all of college football. Surely, Drinkwitz, Luther Burden, and Brady Cook got the message. They may not have got our message, but surely they got the message in general. Mizzou, minus 27. You're not going to hear me say book it, but Mizzou minus 27 against UMass. That is not a tough place to play. It's the worst stadium in college football. Not a good environment. Mizzou's got a point to prove, and they need to take some frustration out and kick the ever-loving dog shit out of UMass. Mizzou minus 27.
I'm going to go ahead and go against the grain on this one. Let's not forget.
Fade that.
Let's not forget that Mizzou's quarterback is Brady Cook. You're banking on him to score a couple there.
Man, they're really good against bad teams. And I mean, we talked about it earlier this season. They do what no, some teams are. I mean, look what happened to Alabama. I mean, Mizzou needs to take care of business. I hear you. I would fade the shit out of this, but I'm going to get back on that horse and ride it one more time. I think that line's a little disrespectful. I understand why the line is what it is, but I think if 3 weeks ago, if you would have saw that Mizzou line at minus 27, Dave, we would have put our house on it. So I'm going to get back on it. I'm going to try to go a different route now. My frustrations are gone. My flag outside my house is gone. It's no longer there. You know, I've really lost my mind on this Mizzou team a lot, but I'm just a diehard, man. I think Mizzou gets right. This is a team to get right against, so I hope they get right. If they don't get right in this one, David, this game's somehow close, we will never speak of Mizzou on this podcast again, period. Point blank, period. I don't give a shit if they end up somehow going undefeated the rest of the way and making the playoffs, which I don't think is going to happen. But my point being here, we will never talk about them again if this game is not a 20-plus point win. We'll never speak of them again.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for us with our best bets, book it segment. You know, Collin had to give you a little sprinkle there, a little action. But appreciate all you guys sticking with us. It's going to be an exciting week in college football. It's going to be wild. Expect our next episode. It's probably going to be ridiculous. Let's be real. It's probably going to be wild because there's going to be some upsets. There's going to be some big wins. But, again, thank all of you guys for continuing to support us, whether you're watching us on Spotify, on YouTube, you're keeping up with us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Keep staying with us. We're going to keep rocking here. We're always going to bring you quality content. And like me and Collin have always said, we're going to be transparent. If you like us, great. If you don't, tell us. We want to hear what you have to say. So give us a comment, give us a like, talk to us. If you want to be on the show, hey, let us know. We'll get you on here. But I'm going to shoot it over to Collin for him to finish us off, and then we'll go from there.
Well, Dave just talked about it. This is a really, really high expectation, lot of hype weekend of college football. Last weekend was, and it turned out to be one of the best weekends of college football we could have asked for. Probably going to go down as the best weekend all season. So kind of like we talked about that hype train earlier, Dave. We discussed the hype train and how the expectations are so high and you can only go down from there. I hope this weekend does not let us down. I hope this weekend gives us everything we want. I want to see close games across the board. We love seeing upsets. We love seeing teams do things that they're not supposed to do. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and throw you one more pick, Dave. I ain't done. LSU money line. I'm going to go against my own damn self and my own Ole Miss takes, and I'm going to tell you LSU at home does not lose. LSU money line. I didn't say book it, so you can fade it if you want. But LSU money line, I'm going to go ahead and tag that too. But with all that being said, I am going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I appreciate y'all for following us this long. If you're still listening to us, still showing us some love, don't forget to throw out a like, a comment, subscribe. Everything helps us along the way. We're still trying to grow. We're still trying to, widen the brand. We're still trying to become something here. And, hey, we're making you guys money. We're 30-26. So until we start to really suck, come on, man. Show us some love, especially if you're following us along the way. You can hit us up on Twitter, X, at DT_sports_, Instagram at Deep Threat Sports with a Z, TikTok, Deep Threat Sports Network, Facebook, Deep Threat Sports Network, YouTube, Deep Threat Sports, and Spotify, Deep Threat Sports. Hey, Dave, can't wait to get back in here with you next week, get Bryant back on the hook, see what he thinks about the weekend. I'll be spending a lot of time with Bryant this Saturday. Fellas, until next time, peace.